y'all, it's Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. Okay, so we're going to talk about this chicken tractor on steroids today. And as of late, we've been getting a whole lot of questions, a whole lot of inquiry, whether through YouTube, Instagram, some of it, and a lot of it also through email. So we're going to try to answer some of those common questions. But before we do anything else, folks, before we get into that, I want to make sure today's the 21st, shortest day of the year. So what should you be doing if you're going to do anything, if you're going to put up any structure, if you're going to think of different enterprises on your property or any place you intend to work, you want to see how the sun's going to be tracking around this day and all the others around it. That, folks, that is of profound importance. And the reason I say that, it can make all the difference in the world as to whether or not, let's say, your mushrooms are going to make it, because maybe you don't have them in an ideal place where they're shaded enough. Or maybe your greenhouse this time of year doesn't get anywhere near the sunlight it needs. Just right behind you, it's not on camera right now, we're actually putting up a high tunnel as we speak. We're going to cover more of that in the future. But folks, that's something of profound importance that you want to check. Make sure you find out where all your microclimates are. This is probably one of the most consequential days of the year in terms of knowing where your shadows are going to be and where you don't have to do it just today, but just around this date. So with that said, we're going to get back into this chicken tractor on steroids. The compost you see right here in this system is basically, it's about a 30-day process, okay? From the time we form it up in that cage till the time it turns out on the outside of this net is basically a 30-day process. So go back and check out the playlist on that. There's a lot of moving parts. It's not difficult, but it would be helpful if you had at least a working knowledge of compost and a working knowledge of how to run chickens. If not, you can do it full steam ahead if you want and just kind of learn along the way. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, in a nutshell, what's going to happen in this system is that we feed them food scraps up inside their compost cage, which we'll get to in a minute. And we give them food scraps every day. Every single day, we'll also take carbon and we'll cover it up at the end of every day. When it's all said and done, we got basically 1.5 cubic yards at the end of the week of material that's captured in that compost cage. It turns out and then ultimately gets to this point. Now, this is critical. These guys, this one right here and all the others, they scratch through these piles. This is where they derive their protein. And I think I can make a pretty convincing argument. In fact, someday maybe I'll make that video as to why I think this is the best system in the world for chickens. And some of the recoveries we've seen in birds that really should have been at death's door. And by the way, this one isn't sick. That's a no-neck. He's supposed to look that way. She's supposed to look that way. So, no, that isn't a sick bird or anything like that. But we have seen astonishing recoveries in this system from birds that probably should have gone into the freezer had it been in any other system. Now, they get their protein out of here by and large, and it's the best protein they could possibly get. They're eating all those microorganisms that you and I can't see. And they're getting their carbs down there. Then, of course, they eat the grass. You get the point. So the way this thing works is that every single week, one day a week, we're going to flip the piles just like we're doing today, okay? We usually do it on Saturday, usually Sunday, actually. And we're a couple of days late, but it's of no consequence. We found out just how far you can push this system. But wintertime, that's the number one thing that people ask us about. Like, hey, does it work in the winter? Absolutely, and we're going to prove it, just like we've proved that you can raise meat birds in this system. You can hatch your own birds, turn them into meat birds or layers, just like the ones you see here within this system. There's so many different things you can do within this system. But first of all, we've covered it. In fact, just sorry about that bird, a little while ago, is that because this is a compost pile and it's active, it's generating heat. Because of that, you can take, and that's why I like these vacuum water cans within this system. We can take those, basically clear off a little space on top, stick your water in there, and it will not freeze. How cool is that? Even though the ambient temperature out here may be, we've had it down in the low teens before, and it still did not freeze. So that's one cool thing about that. Yes, that part works in the winter. Your piles, and William has covered that before when it came to composting. The piles and the size of them is typically the number one problem when dealing with compost. 9 times out of 10, they're way too small. You want at least a cubic yard or meter, close enough. you want at least that much material in a pile. Now on this one here, it's spread out. This one's close to maybe 2 cubic yards in this. It's okay if it's bigger. Just don't want to get over 3 cubic yards. But you want at least a cubic yard of material. If you don't, it's not going to get anywhere near hot enough. And then there's, Michelle, would you? Nope. Yeah, there's my intrepid little guard puppy back there trying to help himself to the chicken's food, which is, by the way, all food scraps. You see that 5-gallon bucket there? Honey, can you hold it up real quick? So let's say you got 25 birds in here. Concerning food scraps, it takes about, okay, they got it. It takes about maybe half a bucket. You got to play with it. It depends on your birds, depends on the system, depends on how active your piles are. It's going to require more out of you. So basically, half a bucket will basically take care of 25 birds a day. In fact, they don't even need that much. I feed them more sometimes within this system in the wintertime because I want these piles to get hotter. The more I feed them, the less they disturb these piles, you dig? So the more protein I offer, the less they feel like they have to derive it out of here. So it can be a balancing act to some extent, but it is, and I keep going on about it, folks. We get nothing by me saying this, but this is the most consequential chicken, egg, meat producing system on planet Earth. And we got to go right back and thank the guy who invented all this, Jeff Lawton, that really kicked all this off. We've just made deviations where it really mattered to us. So here we are in a position where we're about to flip these piles. This one we're going to go ahead and turn on the outside, and then just like the piles you see over to the side here, this is all finished compost. Because of all the irons we have in the fire right now, we haven't yet put it where it belongs, but it's going to get there. So what's going to happen? This one's going to turn on the outside, and we're going to take all these other piles, turn them down, and this thing's just going to keep on tractoring right through the landscape.
So right now we're just gonna weed eat this area where the grass is kind of tall. That way when we go to flip compost, the tall grass doesn't get caught up in our pitchfork.
All right, y'all. So that is the compost pile that turned on the outside of the cage. Now what we'll do, I didn't bring it down with me right now, but what we'll do is take it, cover it up with a tarp. We'll put water and all that kind of stuff in it when we turn it that last time. So it came from inside the cage, turned by us on the outside. Look at it. Looks a whole lot like compost, doesn't it? It'll break down a little bit more. So we'll just cover it up and then we'll use it here before too long. Now, what's going to happen? This pile is going to turn right here. This pile over here is going to turn down the hill. And that compost cage where you see that gray looking bird, that whole cage is going to be set up over there. We're kind of turning through the landscape. We went up and now we're going to come back down. Probably going to wind up, well, they're going to wind up behind the sheep at some point. And then we'll just kind of make determinations as we go. So there we go. Time to get on the flipping. All right, y'all. So here it is. This tractor was posted up here for the week. It's going to move over there about where those chickens are. We expanded the net, and of course they're going to do what chickens do till we put this in place. Now, in here, I know mathematically that when I fill this cage to the top, I get 1.5 cubic yards. But they've kicked out a fair piece of it. You can kind of, maybe you can or maybe you can't tell, but we're on a pretty decent slope here. So chickens always want to scratch downhill, so that's where a lot of their material went. But we're going to show you some of the audibles that you can control in this system. You can take, let's say you don't have enough material to get 1 cubic yard. Well, what you can do is take it, like we're going to do this week. We're going to take what's in that compost cage along with the stuff underneath there, and we're going to combine it with this. And it's going to give us, this wasn't quite 1.5 cubic yards either, but combined it's going to give us a little more than 2 cubic yards. So you can do that. So let's say it's not getting, this is another one of those winter audibles that you can call. Because instead of just having 1 cubic yard, of course, they're going to keep spreading it out. If you make 2, it's going to take them longer to spread it out, but it's still going to maintain more of the heat. So that's one of the cool things here. So what we're going to do, we're going to meet it halfway. We're going to take this cage. First, we're going to move that tractor down there, move the cage, take this remnant of a pile, combine it with this 2-week pile, put them together, water it down, and it's a wrap. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing moved. Basically they're bedding for the week. We'll basically spread this out, and then I got stuff from the leftover from the barn in these little construction bags over here to my right. We got a few of those. We'll go ahead and put it down, and then we'll just get them. Oh, sorry, bird. Yeah, we'll get them cleaned up, put everything back. We're just going to basically put their bedding inside here, and that'll be a wrap for this. So now it's time to go back here, get them fed, then it's off to the races. Okay, what we have in here is the stuff the bedding we collect from the bull, and it's what's left over from those pigs when they were still inside the barn. So we took what was inside there, put it down first. We're gonna put this down. I got 3 bags total, some of them partially full. We'll stick this down. This is our base layer. Now, we should have went ahead and watered beforehand, but it's okay. This is all leaves, pig poop, and bull poop, otherwise known as Washington, D.C. Let me get the rest of it. So they're gonna get something they don't normally get. Usually it's beans, rice, beef. You know, we feed them basically everything but chicken. But down at the farm store, there's an old boy that comes in, drops off a bunch of bread, so I'm gonna let them have a little bit of that as a treat. And then of course a little bit of the rice. You see how little they need? And here it is at the end of the day, it's nearly sundown, and they're in there throwing down. So we'll go ahead and let them eat. They're gonna do their things. It's kind of best if you can do this part of it first. But we're doing a demonstration here, so it's a little bit different. It's always best if you can get this set up first. Have them out of your way so they're not in the middle of your piles that you're trying to flip. So there you go. That's another cool thing. And you know what's really cool about all this? Is because, now, even if you didn't have the bull poop or the pig poop or any of that kind of stuff, this thing's still gonna heat up, because during the day, these guys are gonna eat here. They're also gonna poop here. It's also in the water, and the air that's in there is kicking off the composting process. So what does that mean? That means heat, which means I could take these vacuum water sealers at the end of the day, stick it right on top of here, and we're off and running. It usually doesn't start heating it up till day 2. So day 1, you're gonna have to go to one of your old compost piles. Day 2 and then on out, you can use this one right here. So back to flipping for us. So William's down there doing his thing, bringing that pile up a little bit. And this is the one from the previous week. Now, here's what you want to be careful of, y'all. See this white stuff here? Now, it's plenty warm enough, no doubt about that. But this is where, it tells me it was too warm. That's dead bacteria. That's what you don't want. So the chickens didn't, truth be told, honestly, we neglected this thing really for the last month. And it's still working out, and it's showing us just how much. Now, this isn't an endorsement to neglect, but it is showing you that even if it is out of whack, you can bring it back into balance with very little at all. So I'm gonna take this, put some over here, and you wanna fluff that stuff up when you do it. And then obviously get some over here. Now Michelle's holding the camera, so it's gonna be kind of harder to demonstrate. You see how he's basically fluffing it up as we do this, okay? Adding some air to it. Michelle is basically gonna grab a hold of that water, and we got some moisture in this pile. That pile's a little more dry, but we're gonna make sure we got plenty of good moisture in here. So with that said, it's time to get to flipping. All right, y'all, so that's a wrap. Chickens are down there, it's getting low light. They're about to go in. Man, so there you have it. Here's a pile here. We got a little bit of dead bacteria in there. Of course, that's what you don't want. We have some of it that's gone aerobic, but we know how to fix that. And we've covered it in your 18-day compost pile. So go check out that playlist as well. So here it is. We got this one that just turned out. We got that one over there that turned out. This was a combination, remember, of 2 different piles. Chickens are happy, but the cool thing about making bigger piles is that it's gonna create, you're gonna maintain your heat much, much better. So if you gotta go ahead and take one of these things, and at the end of the day, stick it on top of here to keep it from freezing. What's wrong with that? All right, y'all. So yes, it does work in the winter. Till next time, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. Remember, check out our website. We got a lot of cool stuff there. Check us out on Patreon. We'll see y'all next time.